I want to welcome you to our candidates forum. This event in this forum is the first time for us. Usually we do it in person. And I guess there are some advantages. No face masks are required. You can wear anything you want and you don't have to get in your car and drive somewhere. So let's look at the good side of this. I want to thank all of you who are participating, and we appreciate your offering yourself for one of these positions and for taking the time to join us tonight. Thanks also to our residents who have tuned into this. These are unusual times, and it is not as easy as it has been to interact with those running for office. And last but not least, thank you to Rob Miller, our HOA president, who thankfully is a techie and knows how to get things like this set up and moving. This wouldn't happen without him. And thanks to our clubhouse staff who facilitate everything that goes on at Windsor Hills. Usually we have a prayer and pledges to our flags, but in the interest of time, we're going to bypass that tonight, even though both are important. In the Woodlands Township, we have 8 candidates running for 3 different positions. John Anthony Brown, current director for position number 3, is unopposed, so he will not be speaking. We will take our candidates by position and order on the ballot. First, we will have the position 1 candidates, Jerry Smith and Gordy Bunch. Next will be position 2 candidates, Jason Nelson, Tom Chumley, Louise Granados, and Jimmie Dotson. And finally, position 4 candidates, Dan Hannon and Bruce Reeser. My husband, Belton Bird, will be the timekeeper. On a rotating basis, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening, 2 minutes for each of 2 questions, and 1 minute for final remarks. Belton will chime his bell halfway through your time for a particular question or opening or ending. And I wish that each candidate could have more time, but your forum will be followed by candidates for CISD board, and we don't want to keep everybody here all night. So let's go ahead and get started. Does everybody understand what we're doing? Have any questions? Okay. So the first question, which will go to Mr. Smith first. Please tell us how long you have been a resident of the Woodlands, your education and work experience, your motivation for running, and why we should elect you to represent us on the Woodlands Township Board. Have you led or served on any township committees? And this is 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Smith. I'm a psychologist and a former law enforcement officer and hostage negotiator, a trained mediator. Throughout my career, I've worked in inpatient psychiatric hospitals and correctional settings. I'm a proud military brat, a proud Aggie, a proud Texan, and a proud resident of Aldenbridge. I've lived in Aldenbridge going on 4 years now, almost 4 years, not quite. Lived in the Beaumont Port Arthur prior to moving here. I currently own a small psychology firm. I'm sorry, I have something going off in the background. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I'll push through. I currently own a small psychology firm on 1488. I volunteer as a mental health professional on the Montgomery County Medical Reserves Corps and the Red Cross. I serve as a member of the Disaster Response Network for the Texas Psychological Association.
Jeez.
I'm running for the board of directors because I want to make sure your voice is heard and the board acts in a way consistent with what the voters want. If you heard me speak, you've heard me say I'm not a politician. There are politicians running and are probably much smoother speakers than I am. So please forgive me if I'm not as versed in some things as my opponent, who has been on the board for 4 terms, is. Know this, there are 4 principles I stand by. I do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I am my brother's keeper. We should love our neighbor as ourselves, and government should provide the highest quality services for the least amount of money. Every action I take while serving as your elected official will be guided by these principles. You'll never have to wonder how I reached a particular decision because I've just given you that. So I hope I have your support on November 3rd, and I hope I answered all the questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Gordy?
Hi, I'm Gordy Bunch, and I've been a resident of the Woodlands since 1995. I am a Coast Guard veteran. I literally moved to the Woodlands directly off the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton, so I'm straight off the boat. I went to college at Sam Houston State before enlisting. I left early to join just after the Gulf War started. Since coming to the Woodlands, I started an insurance career that led me to open my own insurance business, TWFG. It's you see it at the Woodlands Mall. Today, that business is in 22 states with 400 locations. It's the largest privately held insurance agency in Texas and Louisiana, and number 8 in the United States. I've been Entrepreneur of the Year for Ernst & Young in 2015, an honor I share with Mattress Mac and George Mitchell himself. I do sit on several boards. I'm current chairman of the Woodlands Township. I am the current chairman of the Conroe Woodlands UZA FTA, does federal funding. I'm a EDP board member, a chamber executive committee member, and been the past secretary treasurer of the township and vice or chairman of Visit the Woodlands, now the Convention Vision Bureau. In the 8 years I've been on the board, I've been able to lower the tax rates 32.5%, reduce the town's total debt 62.5%, and also increase our cash reserves by 83%. I am proven. I know many of you, and all you have to do is look at our actual record, and you'll see that low taxes, low debt, high amenities, high quality of life are the forefront of why I'm running. I want to continue to protect our hometown from the things we don't want and advocate for the things we do want. I appreciate all my Windsor Hills residents and ask you for your support yet again.
Hey, Gordy, thank you very much. So we move to the next position. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Yes, okay. How long have you been a resident of the Woodlands? Your education and work experience, your motivation for running, and why we should elect you to represent us on the Woodlands Township Board. Have you led or served on any township committees? And you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jason Nelson, and I first moved to Texas in 2001, and I have a degree in education. I have a master's in arts and a master's of divinity as well. I love school. I began my career as an educator, and I just am a lifelong learner. I am currently a United Methodist minister and have served under 3 different Episcopal appointments, one at Christ Church in Sugar Land, one at the Woodlands United Methodist Church. I'm currently serve Rose Hill United Methodist Church. I'm also currently on the Woodlands Township Board in position 2, and I am so honored and have such a privilege of serving with the board and being here tonight to talk about things that matter to our community. I'm also proud that we worked hard over the last few months to see our community through this global pandemic and to find creative ways to be fiscally responsible and provide the services that our residents desire and expect. I'm also proud that we hired a fantastic GM and Jeff Jones, who's doing a great job. And also excited that we worked hard on the budget that makes sense for us for the next coming year while also keeping property taxes low. I mentioned before that I have extensive background in education, and part of the reason why education is so important to me is because my children are important to me, and their protection and their education in the Woodlands is. And so one of the reasons why I'm running is for them. I want to protect the future of the Woodlands. I also want to protect the future of my children in the Woodlands, and just make sure that we as a community continue to be a safe, welcoming, hospitable community that is able to pass down our values for generations to come. So again, I thank you for the time to be here today, and I thank you for allowing the chance to speak.
Thank you. Next is Tom Chumbley.
Clearly, we are at a crossroads. The biggest thing that has ever happened to the Woodlands, including the creation of the Woodlands itself, is imminent within this upcoming election period, that being incorporation. And shortly after, combined with the effects of falling revenues from reaching build-out and the failure to adequately plan for aging housing. At one fork of this crossroad lies a slate of candidates whose path leads us to becoming the next Greens Point, that no amount of policing is going to help. At the other fork in this crossroad lies another path, another slate of candidates. A school had been built on toxic land, and their houses had been constructed on top of active fault lines. Time and again, those who seek to develop make a buck at the expense of the residents or ignore their desires for their own community. This noble emotionalism, however, can lead to mistakes, to include suggesting that creating a new government that doesn't exist is somehow not growing government. Regardless of how efficient you're making it, you must recognize the dangers in so doing, or you can create a worse tyranny than you are trying to avoid. In the many exchanges I've had with both sides, I realized the underlying ideology of both groups was my way at all costs. We didn't even know the financial costs until very recently. I'm excited to tell you that an opportunity exists, a vision for the future that is bright, future that is grounded in the best arguments, based on being reasonable and sensible. I am that candidate, and I'd love the opportunity to tell you more about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it Luis or Louis?
Luis.
Luis?
Luis, yeah.
Okay, it's your turn.
Okay, great. My name is Luis Granados. I am originally from Latin America, from Peru. I graduated over there with a BS in mechanical engineering, and I came to the United States to pursue a PhD in nuclear engineering. That was by 1984, if I can remember. When I finished my master, something catastrophic happened in the nuclear industry, and I had to move on to pursue a PhD in mechanical engineering instead. That was the Chernobyl event. So that forced me to change careers at that time. By 2005, I moved to the Woodlands. Beautiful area, beautiful. I've never seen something like that at the time when I moved in 2005. Since 2010 to the present, I have seen some changes. And some of these changes are the traffic, for example, the huge amount of traffic. But then I apply my knowledge of engineering to try to discriminate what is the source of the problem and what is the symptom of the problem from the problem. That's sometimes it's not easy to do it. What is the symptom of the problem? It's the traffic. But what is the problem? The problem is what we need to address. And the problem is the Woodlands Development Company, which came here about 7 or 8 years ago and starting building multifamily complex in a very aggressive way. So new people had to come, and because a bunch of cars were on the roads, they were forced to expand the roads and to build new roads to accommodate that traffic. So, but we need to differentiate. The problem is not the roads. That's the symptom of the problem. The problem is the way that the huge corporations are working in this area when they acquire the rights for the land development. And this is what I wanted to address. So to do that, I've been doing my homework. I don't know if I have much more time, or do I need to cut it off?
Okay, your time's up. Thank you very much.
That's fine.
And Jimmie Dotson.
Good evening. I am Jimmie Dotson. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this great event with these wonderful men that are willing to serve their time in our community. My wife, Elsa Dotson, and I have been married for 46 years. We moved to the Woodlands in 1983. Prior to that, I served my country in the United States Marine Corps doing one tour of duty in Vietnam. Shortly after I finished my military obligation, I moved to Houston, Texas, where I met my beautiful wife. After meeting my wife, I entered the police academy, and I served as a police officer for the Houston Police Department for 24 years. During the time that I served Houston Police Department, I also was able to acquire my BS degree in criminal justice, and I got my master's degree in liberal arts from Houston Baptist University. I've always served my community, and I've served my community through the law enforcement perspective. I'm one who believes in keeping law and order, and I would love to make sure that if I'm on the board, that there would be law and order in our community, that there would not be any civil unrest in our community. And I would also like to serve on our board to make sure that our future is in good hands. And I want to use my experiences in law enforcement to do just that, because I believe that I would be the only one serving on the board that has experience in law enforcement as a police chief. And I want to bring those experiences to us. So that's why I would love to serve. I currently serve as a deacon in the Crossroads Baptist Church. I serve on the nonprofit board of Inspirational Ranch. And I have served as the one who designed and implemented the community policing plan that we currently have in the Woodlands today, and that is used throughout some parts of Montgomery County. So as a police chief, I offer you my services to come and provide security for our great community that we live in today. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And now we will move on to our position 4 candidates, with Dan Hannon going first. Oops, unmute yourself. No.
How's that?
Oh.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Diane, and thank you for all the residents of Windsor Hills for doing this. I'm honored to be here. My name is Dan Hannon, and I'm running for the Township Board of Directors, position number 4. My wife, Judy, and I are 30-year residents of the Woodlands. We moved in 1991. I am a pastor in the United Methodist Church. I came as the planting pastor, the founding pastor to Christ Church United Methodist on Research Forest, next to the Woodlands High School. I retired a year ago and now serve as pastor emeritus, and I serve in a consulting role and enjoy to be the chaplain for Interfaith of the Woodlands. From an education perspective, I hold a Bachelor of Arts in History from the Stephen F. Austin, a Master in Education from the University of Houston. My career path: I was a public school teacher. I'm still life certified secondary education. My career path was to be a district superintendent of schools. We've been in ministry for 40 years. I've served on the Conroe School District Fund Bond Committee for the stadium and the natatorium. I've been in Rotary, chairman of the Interfaith in 2008 Hometown Hero. I'm running, or I'll give you 3 words for which I run: preserve, protect, and provide. Preserve our township, protect our citizens, and provide through a sound management of our budget and taxations. I am against incorporation. I am strongly in favor of public safety and law enforcement, and I believe the primary job of our board of directors is to manage the budget and keep our taxes low. Limited government and low taxes to preserve this magnificent township called the Woodlands.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the first question. Well, actually, second question.
This is Diane. Are you going to give me a chance to respond?
Oh, Bruce, I am so sorry. I knew I was going to screw
We'll just move
this
right
up.
to the end. And, go
Please, nothing personal. Okay.
on. Thank you. Thanks, Diane, and thanks for inviting me. It's great to be back here speaking to your residents again, where it all started on a Saturday morning in October of 2016, my very first candidate forum with you. That day, ironically, we discussed our positions on potential incorporation in the township, amid charges by a local PAC that electing me would result in a rush to incorporation and a 70% tax increase. Fortunately, you weren't fooled. Fast forward to today, and our tax rates have never been lower, and we have yet to complete the incorporation study that the residents demanded after the defeat of the Woodlands Parkway extension and 3 severe flooding events in the space of 18 months. So I caution everyone to beware of PACs attempting to scare you unnecessarily. I was elected to the board in 2016 and again in 2018, and I've been working diligently on your behalf over the past 4 years. I'm currently the vice chairman of the Township Board and the chairman of Visit the Woodlands. I'm the chairman of the Drainage Task Force and the Budget Task Force. I've also served on the Economic Development Committee, the Woodlands Road Utility District, the Incorporation Subcommittee, and the Search Committee for both the new fire chief, Palmer Buck, and our new GM, Jeff Jones. I'm a retired senior airline executive and now a small business owner. And in addition to my township duties, I'm the lead consultant on the $1.3 billion Mickey Leland International Redevelopment Program at IAH Airport. Your board's worked hard over the past 4 years to continue and maintain and enhance our community services while continuing to hold your property taxes at or near the effective tax rate. We've reduced our debt by $37 million while increasing our reserves. Obviously, this level of economic stability has impressed the bond rating firms as well, where the township enjoys excellent bond. On a personal note, I'm a 31-year resident of the Woodlands, and we currently reside in the Grogan's Forest subdivision in College Park. My lovely wife, Sarah, and I will be celebrating 35 years of marriage in December, and our adult daughter, Caitlin, and our grand dog, Sochi, live and work in Houston. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have to point out that on the screen, Bruce's last name is misspelled. And I don't know who put the names up, but when I first communicated with him about being on this, I wanted to make sure I didn't mispronounce his last name. So Bruce, you just need to change it.
Well, you know, I've actually considered it. I've just gotten a lot more relaxed about being, you know, as my dad said, you know, it doesn't matter what you're called, just don't be called late for dinner. So that's, you know.
That's right. Well, I see it's been corrected, so that's good.
I appreciate it. It is RIESER. So.
Yes. Okay. So we move on, and we start with Gordy this time, 2 minutes for this question. And again, Belton will ring the bell after 1 minute. Assuming you had to vote today, and based on what you've already read and heard, should the Woodlands become incorporated? What do you see as the benefits and pitfalls of changing from our current status to a city?
Thank you for the question. Yes, if we had to vote today, I would vote to incorporate into a city. Serving on this board for the past 8 years, I get a lot of the complaints that come to the board from our residents. And many of those issues I end up having to direct to other government agencies. So incorporation is a pathway to change some of the things that Mr. Granados was mentioning. George Mitchell sold the Woodlands over 2 decades ago. And since that time, development has been rampant and different than many of us long-term residents experienced when we moved here. We had the Woodlands Parkway extension. We've had 2 floods, a hurricane, a pandemic. Now we have Mitchell Island overdevelopment, all different things that we can't control in our hometown that actually go to the city of Houston, the city of Conroe, or the counties to decide. I believe that our residents asked us to perform a comprehensive study. They've asked us to present that to the public, and they deserve a right to weigh in on that decision. And it'll be up to our residents to decide whether or not we want to be a city. Not myself or any other board member or any other candidate can choose on their own whether or not we become the city of the Woodlands. The city of the Woodlands equals local residential control. It transfers the authority for our hometown away from Houston, Conroe, Harris, and Montgomery counties, and eventually could lead to the elimination of the 11 mud districts, consolidating into a city water service. So I know many want to espouse its expanding government, but we would actually be eliminating 55 elected directors. They get paid that no one knows who they are, consolidate those 11 special purpose districts, and the township itself would dissolve and become a city, ending up with one entity for one Woodlands future. controlled by our residents if they so choose to vote in favor of incorporation when it's presented on a ballot.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Jerry, please. Okay.
Yes, just unmuted. So if we had to vote today, I would vote no. And the reason for that, I'm really concerned to.
There's a lot of static.
Oh, can you hear me?
It's a lot. Is everybody else hearing static?
Okay, yes. Try again.
Okay, are you still hearing static? Are you able to hear me now clearly?
Jerry, it might be at your mic. Do you have it on your shirt or somewhere? Because it's static. It's rubbing up against something. You may want to hold it.
Is this any better?
Yes.
Much better. We're starting over.
That's better?
Yes, much better.
Okay.
We're starting over.
And we'll
Thank you.
start over.
All right, so if we had to vote today, I would vote no for incorporation. That would be my personal vote. I do believe that the residents and the voters of the Woodlands should have the ability to make that decision and determine for themselves whether to incorporate it or not. But that would be my vote no. And the reason why I say no at this moment, in fact, as I was saying earlier, I'm a new convert to this because if you look at some of my old campaign materials, it'll actually say I'm pro incorporation. And that's very much true in the sense that I have one view of what incorporation looked like. And recently I've been presented with some additional information that has muddied the waters to the extent that I don't believe that we have enough information right now. There's many different sides to this, many different aspects that we need to look at, and I don't think that we have a clear picture. The study is not even done yet, so obviously that would need to be done before making an informed decision, before we can even make an informed decision. So right now, today, my vote would be no. Again, that's primarily because there's a lot of unanswered questions, the study isn't done, and we need to get additional information. The benefits of incorporation are kind of the ultimate being self-determination. As a city, we would have the ability to determine for ourselves what happens within our borders, and that's a big deal. So that's I don't know of any more powerful benefit than that. But some of the pitfalls of it obviously are the cost of incorporation and everything that comes along with the responsibilities that come along with that, the loss of some advantages that we have now, such as reduction in hotel taxes and things like that. So my vote is no today. I heard my bell.
Thank you very much. So the next position, Tom, you go first.
Oh, can't hear him.
Tom, you got to unmute your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. To answer your question, yeah, last year I was kind of somewhat like Jerry. I was kind of on the fence and about information. We were lacking information. We were lacking the financial information. The Novak study is out. You can get it on the Woodlands Township website. For some reason it says draft on it, but it has the numbers there. And I was talking with the executives from the Woodlands Township, and they used the Novak study, the numbers that were there, as well as the regular model that they use for doing projections. And they calculated that's $311 for a $500,000 home increase. So that's $311 for a $500,000 home. So the reason why I would say yes is, first of all, we have that financial information. Before, it's kind of like wanting to buy a television, and you might want the best sound, the best look, and all of this stuff, but without knowing the financial cost, that may very much determine of the values that you're trying to pick, which television you're going to buy. We didn't have that. This is the bottom line, is that we've needed, what made the Woodlands successful is the fact that there was a comprehensive plan that was doable. The problem that we're facing now is that the plan, if we were to come up with one, is not doable. And the reason why it's not doable is precisely because we don't have the controls to be able to do it. For example, aging of the woodlands. We need to stop housing from becoming dilapidated that's older. And in order to do something like that, you have to have controls that only a city can have. So success of the woodlands has been because of a comprehensive plan that's doable. We're at the maturity level of where we are in development. The issues have changed. It's not just development. We're into a phase of redevelopment. And in order for that to be successful, and with falling revenues as a result of build out and all of this, all of these things coming together, increasing what we have to do in order to take over services that the development company was doing, all these things together, we need a comprehensive plan.
Okay, your time's up. Thank you. I know, but I lose track of which. Okay, next is Luis.
Okay, thank you very much. If I want to connect to the previous ideas, I did my homework, okay? I spoke with a bunch of people about who is behind this problem that I mentioned to you before, about the traffic, the congestion, and the number of cars in the last 10 years, more closely the last 8 years. So I spoke with Commissioner Nowak, Commissioner Riley, the one who used to be the Judge Dolan or something like that.
Oh, Doyle, Judge
Yeah.
Doyle.
As they say, all the roads goes to Rome. And in this case, all the communications that I receive aim to the Hughes Corporation. The Hughes Corporation, they have an enormous power that the regular people and the voters, they don't know. They have representation with the MAT, they have representation with the Road Utility District, and some others that I don't recall right now. Is my time off?
No, you have another minute.
They have a huge power, and they don't have to come here to ask you to elect them. By default, by the way that the contract they have to develop the land, they have a lot of power. They have even more power than the board of directors. The board of directors, as Mr. Bunch mentioned in one of their emails, they don't have much power. They don't have the power to face the director or the general manager of the Hughes Corporation, or even the commissioners, the Conroe, the Montgomery County commissioners that I mentioned to you before. There is no power. So to answer your question about if I am in favor or not to become a city, the answer is, what is the modality with which will give to the board of directors or to the mayor or whoever the representative of the people living in the place, they will have more power to face these forces.
Okay, your time's up. Thank you. Next is Jimmie Dotson.
My answer is no, absolutely unequivocally no at this particular time. We're in a pandemic. We're trying to heal in our community. And for right now to start talking about incorporation, I think would be an injustice to our residents, because we've got small businesses that are hurting. We've got people who are afraid to come out of their homes. We've got our churches that have not completely opened up. And it would be the benefit of having a name as a city. You can be able to collect fines and levies and fees. But what is the pitfalls? The pitfalls are numerous. The cost is number one. I know we've heard our current board members say that they prepared and they've done a great job on the budget and all of that. And I agree with them. But when we start talking about becoming a city, there's liabilities. There are jails that we have to understand that we've got to build. And not only just build, but we have to operate those. We're sitting on $96 million right now in reserve funds. We ought to be considering using some funds to help some of our small businesses get back up on their feet. But when we talk about a city, we're talking about a cost that has not even been mentioned yet in this study. When we see cities that are facing social unrest, when we see cities that are paying out huge millions of dollars in lawsuits, why would we want to put this burden on our residents right now? Let's get well, Let's heal from this pandemic. And then when our residents are ready to talk about incorporation, by all means, I would want to make sure that they have all of the information, every fact of it, the cost, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as a police chief, I know what those hidden costs are. I have managed police departments, large, middle-sized, and small departments. And that report has not demonstrated everything that I think our residents need to know when it comes to incorporation.
Thank
So
you
my
very
position
much.
right now would be no. Thank you.
And Jason.
Hi. Yeah, in a world that we're not going through a pandemic, I would say yes today. But in fact, the board, because we are very aware of the consequences of this COVID-19 crisis, we actually had a chance to put on the vote on the ballot for November and said no, because we understand that businesses are hurting. We understand that people are losing jobs. I just spoke 3 weeks ago with a GM of one of our hotels who had to lay off 100 people. And this 3 weeks ago, and we're still gonna feel the effects of this. We know that many of you know that most of our revenue, 60% comes from sales tax and hotel tax. So we know we've got to get through this. All the time that we keep talking about incorporation, there are those of us who believe it makes sense, that it's right, it's about having a strong, safe future for our residents. And then there are those who don't agree with it. But the issue for me, first of all, is yes, it has to be in the hands of the people. The people need to decide. And a lot of times the argument is framed in such a way that's not really if I'm for or against incorporation. We hear that I don't even want it on the ballot. And that's not my perspective. As a conservative person who has a belief in limited government and low tax, of course I don't want major taxes to go up. And I've looked at the study, and the number of 4.38 cents increase per $100 value on property tax has been thrown out there. That is not astronomical in any means. So today I am for incorporation. But because we have the pandemic, the board has already addressed this. We already have a plan in place. We're going to come back after this even stronger, go into the next year, knowing that we're going to be able to just continue to engage and inform our very educated, highly intelligent residents so that they can make a decision. And at the end of the day, I believe once they have the information that we've read and have the information that we're going to receive collectively, I believe that they're going to see that the Woodlands needs to become a city so that we can control and have power, not just influence over the things that matter to us, over the things of having a solid law enforcement. And by the way, people are talking about us not having the budget to bring in the law enforcement. We already are budgeting over like 100 officers we have for Montgomery County and for Harris County. So we are going to be strong when we're incorporated.
Okay, your time's up, Jason. Thank you. And last but not least, for position, the last position, number 4, we have Bruce.
Let's start by unmuting. Yeah, Diane, obviously it's a tricky question right now. I've favored incorporation in both of my previous 2 runs. You know, the current situation with COVID and the uncertainty, as Jason has already alluded, we put this thing on hold back in March, and we really haven't revisited it. So it's a difficult question to answer. All I can say is jury's still out. I really wouldn't want to send the community to jail until the jury returns a guilty verdict. We've got a lot of things to look at still, the mud portion of this thing, and other mitigation strategies for citizens that are on fixed incomes and so on to mitigate any possible economic impacts to incorporation. We're still a long way from making a definitive decision. Having said that, once all of the questions are answered and we have and we've had a chance to fully inform the public, in the end, my personal opinion, while I would vote for it, is not relevant because the board cannot incorporate the Woodlands. This has to be done by referendum, and not only do you have to approve the incorporation, but you also have to approve the proposed maximum initial tax rate. So I still think we've got work to do. Maybe we can talk about this. I don't know if I'll be running again in 2 years, but maybe we'll be talking about it again then. But thank you.
Hopefully COVID will be over by then. Thank you. And Dan.
Thank you. My answer is unequivocally no. I'm against incorporation. I'm against incorporation because our citizens are against incorporation. Surveys have been conducted within the township, and currently there's 80% of our residents that are not in favor of incorporation. Several years ago, the mayor of Indianapolis, Indiana, came on a business trip visit to the township. And after his visit to the township, said to township leaders, whatever you do, don't change the township because it is more effective than the city of Indianapolis. And there are stories like that that go on and on. The primary driver for incorporation has been covered by state law. Senate Bill number 6, passed by, sponsored by our own state representative, that has taken annexation off of the table. No one can be annexed without the vote of the people. And that's the big issue. We have until 2057, that's 37 years, to decide and work this out. To put something on the ballot in 2 years, this is a rush, and it's a rush by the current board of directors who have reasons other than the best interest of the citizens. Every trigger that has been talked about, Mitchell Island, flood control, all of these, the enabling legislation that created the Woodlands Township, all provides the means to effectively deal with it. So I'm absolutely against it because it creates a massive infrastructure that places a heavy tax burden on the citizens, and it will destroy the identity of who we are as a people. And I reiterate, the enabling legislation and the structure of the township in cooperation with our great partners in the county creates this one-of-a-kind township in the entire state. And there's no redo, there's no mulligan. You do away with the township, it is gone forever. And so I am adamantly opposed against it for all of these reasons. The township should be something that is replicated for communities in the state and not eliminated. It's just not wanted by our people.
Thank you very much, Dan. Tom, I'm not sure your little visual messages are appropriate to be flashed on the screen. So I would ask you to stop doing that. Next question, again, a 2-minute question. What do you believe is the #1 challenge the township will face over the next 5 years? If elected, what actions would you take to address this challenge? And we have first Jerry.
So I think the biggest challenge, or the biggest challenges in the next 5 years is, one, this recovery from the pandemic. However long that's going to take, however long this is going to last.
Would you speak up a little bit more?
He's rocking his chair and his microphone. He has.
Yeah, I think rocking in your chair is causing you.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Okay, let's start over.
So in the next 5 years, I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have is recovering from this pandemic, economically, even in some levels socially. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how long there's going to be disruption to our businesses. So feasibly, this could take us the entire 5 years to just recover. There's so many small businesses have died off during this pandemic, and we need to stop the hemorrhaging. One of the things, as was mentioned earlier, is we have this huge reserve that we could use, we could have been using to save some of these small businesses. There's no reason not to, particularly what we've been told is that that reserve is to help with incorporation, to kind of pull down the cost. Well, right now we have an emergency going on, and we're not even determined or decided on whether we want to incorporate it or not. So we have a huge pot of money that we could be using to bolster small businesses, improve the community. There were projects, capital projects that were deferred, put aside because in the name of the pandemic. Well, why couldn't we take some of the reserved funds and still go through with those projects? And in the process of doing that, encourage small business. People would have to complete those projects, so we would have helped save jobs. We would continue to improve the communities. So there were some things that we missed an opportunity to do. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to have to deal with. Obviously, as the borders are closed and we continue to grow, overcrowding is going to become a major issue. It's already an issue, but it's going to become an even bigger issue that we're going to have to deal with.
Okay, thank you very much. And Gordy?
Thank you. So there is a lot of issues facing the community over the next 5 years, and I'm not going to isolate down to one. In the near term, it is COVID-19 and the related impacts that it's having on our local economy. Our board and our budget task force, headed up by Chairman Reeser, reacted very quickly in late March, early April to set aside current year budget items in order to get ahead of the anticipated revenue losses. That's allowed us to keep our tax rate at the effective rate as we went into our budget cycle this year. Some of those reserves that were mentioned, we created last year a sales tax reserve, seeing that we had headwinds in the oil and gas industry. We're using those sales tax reserves to offset the drop of revenues from hotel and sales tax to keep our service levels high at the level our residents expect. Incorporating into a city, that's likely to be a next 5-year concern. That's not on the ballot this year. And as we go through and finish the study, it'll be incumbent on future to present that to the public and let them have the full information and decision. Right now, we're fighting overdevelopment, clear cutting, road extensions, overpasses, underpasses. These are all things infrastructure-wise that are currently threatening our community that we have to keep an eye on. Those decisions currently reside with Houston, the developer, or the county, and our board has to use its influence while we lack the power to protect our community in the interim. We are looking at a convention center expansion, and we're also wanting to pick back up the performing arts theater that we started with the Cynthia Wood Mitchell's Pavilion. Flood mitigation, subsidence, and long-term water supply are other key issues. There's not just one issue that faces our community. There's a multitude of issues that you need strong leadership and proven records to deal with. I have that, and I hope that you see that the next 5 years are still going to be great, but we do have more than a singular issue to address.
Thank you very much. For the next position, Luis, you are first.
Any question?
Same question. What do you believe is the #1 challenge?
Okay. Immediately is the health issue, of course, right? Nobody can deny that. But assuming that this is managed properly by the federal government, and next year we will have a vaccine and everything will go back to normal, the big problem that we have is the symptom of the problem is the deforestation and the number of cars on the ways, on the roadways, okay? And behind this, the problem of the Woodlands Development Company, the Woodlands Development Company. How are we going to deal with them if the board of directors, they don't have any power to do that? So basically, we are at their mercy. If we continue keeping quiet about this issue, and I see to be that I am the only one crazy guy here talking about this, it's kind of uncomfortable, to be honest with you. In 10 more years, there is not going to be woods in the woodlands. The deforestation process is going to continue, and they have to remove the trees because they need to expand the roads or they need to build new roads. So we need to address the issue, how to deal with this company.
Okay, thank you very much. Jimmie?
Well, I agree with my colleagues. Probably economic viability should be the #1 concern that we should be focusing on within the next 5 years. But it's not the only concern that we're going to have to look at. I heard Director Bunch talk about the flood and water issues, fresh water, whether it's ground or surface water, we got to be concerned with that. We're also going to have to be concerned with our social unrest. The Woodlands is not immune from that. We may not see it now, but the future is showing us as we look at the trends all over this country, we're going to be concerned about domestic terrorism. Public safety, in my opinion, is going to be #1, public safety #2, public safety #3. Because if we can't protect our residents and our citizens, none of this other stuff is going to make that much of a difference. So I think that number one is the economy. We've got to stabilize our economy. We've got to put our people to work. We've got to help reduce the fear of those who are not coming out of their home to go back in and start going to our restaurants and making sure that our small businesses are getting the support they need. But we also have to always consider public safety. And as I mentioned earlier, the Woodlands is not immune from that. And as one who's been in public safety for 46 years, I see the trends. And I hope and pray to God that they does not come here. But we need to be prepared for it for the next 5 years beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jason, you're next.
Obviously, based on our discussion on the last question, incorporation is going to be an issue for us for months or years ahead. And I'm not the type of person that's into kicking the can down the road, nor am I the type of person that's going to force anything on anybody. And the year will come where we are going to have to be annexed. And so I'm all about engaging and informing our residents and empowering them to make a decision. And so the first task is to let them have the information. Let's get all the study material, do all the research, and put it in their hands and let them have a decision down the road in the next year or two, so that we can be as strong as possible, so we can have the control and authority over the different things that everybody's mentioning, street issues and law enforcement. Although we have an excellent law enforcement right now, we have excellent first responders, we have an excellent fire department who just are some of the best, if not the best in the nation. But talking about incorporation is a very important thing that we're gonna have to do. And since it's the people's decision, if they're adamantly opposed to it, then they'll shut it down and we'll move forward until 2057. We have to give up and then give in. But the other issue is getting through the economy, as everybody says. And part of the job of being a director on the Woodlands Township is use your influence, so we don't have as much power as we'd like to. Use our influence to go out and talk to the business owners and find out what they're missing. I talked about the hotel manager. I've also visited restaurants. And out there, people are having to make ends meet. They're having thousands, hundreds of thousands. One restaurant owner has been under $1 million in sales from last year. The other issue that we have to think about is isolationism and focus on mental health, caring for each other, looking out for our neighbor, because people are hurting, not just economically, not just physically, but they're hurting emotionally, they're hurting spiritually, they're hurting mentally. And we as a township need to continue to partner with our nonprofits who provide us services that are important and essential to maintain the health of this community and the vibrancy of those who live within it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, Tom. Need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think they've already talked to some of those issues pretty well. I think the comment that I made that was perhaps inappropriate was about Dan smiling when Louis was out of time. And so one of the reasons why I'm running, I didn't get a chance to talk about that earlier, has to do with, you know, I'm pretty big on morality and character and that type of thing. And I really don't see me winning this election, frankly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a positive influence along the way. And when I see things, I'm going to call it out. And when you smile at someone who is failing and you're not even running against them, that's not cool. I will point it out. And that's a value that I have. And I don't care, you tell me any one of these guys here, if they take one step out of line, I will call them out. So I don't mind being called out for, you know, you say I'm doing something inappropriate on here, but I tell you what, that is my very function here. And so when I see stuff like that, it speaks to someone's character, and I will talk about it.
You still have 30 seconds. Or a minute, excuse me.
You know, as far as issues are concerned, you know, like I said, comprehensive plan, I like how Gordy put it, is that there's not just one particular thing. There's a whole bunch of things going on here. And we need, again, going back to that comprehensive plan thing, that's what we need to do. And that's why the Woodlands has been successful. It's not only having the plan, but it's also being able to execute that plan. And without being incorporated, you're not going to be able to execute that plan. So in terms of, you know, one particular issue, I would say the issue in the Woodlands is having a comprehensive plan and being able to execute it.
Thank you. The last position, Dan, you're first.
Thank you. So I think there are three issues that'll be before us in the 5 years to come, and the first will be incorporation. The second is public safety and law enforcement as we continue to grow and development. And then the third would be the budget management. So the first, incorporation is not on the ballot, but it is a referendum because the board that will be elected this time around will be pushing the citizens pushing them to a decision whether to place it on the ballot or not. So it's there. Annexation is off of the table. We cannot be annexed unless we choose to vote on it. So we will not be forced into annexation under state law. And we are covered by the design standards, the entire Woodlands and commercial development along with Montgomery County. And those are very powerful tools that are used. If there's any clear cutting that's taking place, it's done by the thousands of acres that has been donated by the development company to the township. They do clear cutting on township land. And so we got to be careful about throwing darts on things like that. Public safety, as we continue to grow and develop, we will continue to develop urban crime. That's just part of the nature of growth. And so we have to work with our partners. Excellent relationship in Montgomery County, Sheriff and the Constable's Office for Montgomery and Harris County. And then finally, the budget management. I will say one of the reserves is the incorporation reserve fund, which has $16 million. And we citizens have been taxed for incorporation without our vote, because that $16 million has been set aside as a cushion to cover the expense of incorporation, which means without a completed report, our current board understands we can't fund incorporation. So we've been taxed without a vote. And so
Time's up. And Bruce, be sure to unmute your mic. We can't hear you.
It's been said here, and and obviously I have the advantage of going last, but I think it's really important to point out that we have zero authority on public safety. We fund additional patrol officers, but the sheriff has the ultimate authority as far as public safety is concerned, and I think everybody needs to understand that. I mean, I've heard, I think that obviously that Gordy has pointed out that there are a myriad of very complicated issues that are going to come before the board over the next 5 years. I think water is number one. We're finding out more and more every day. And as chairman of the Drainage Task Force for the last 4 years, we have huge issues that we're going to have to confront. We're going to have to figure out a balance between surface water and groundwater usage. We're going to have to try to prevent subsidence that could cause additional flooding or fault line movement that could affect homes in the area. We've got to talk about stormwater. We still don't have a solution for Spring Creek. And it's amazing to me that when we talk about that we've already taxed people for incorporation, I'm telling you, the people have made it very clear to us that they wanted this study done, and we've done the due diligence necessary to prove that and to set up to get this done in a way that doesn't damage have a huge tax impact on the residents. I mean, we can talk about this all you want and the Mitchell legacy, but the Woodlands of 1997 is not the Woodlands of 2020. And anybody that's been here knows that. It is an enormous difference. And you just have to look at that and say, can we go until 2057 and we're going to be okay? That's debatable. So, I mean, it's an interesting question, but in the end, everybody needs to realize that it will be up to the residents to decide. And frankly, if we've got any candidates in this forum that are saying, I know better than the residents, and I'm going to park this study, and I'm not going to give them a chance to talk about it, that's flat wrong. And I don't really care whether it's voted up or down, Diane. It's up to the residents to decide.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. You each have 1 minute to make a final comment. I know that's not long enough, but we're running over a little bit. So Gordy, you get to go first. Your mic's, unmute your mic.
I just said some really awesome stuff. Anyways, Gordy, I'm proud to serve as the chairman of the Woodlands Township Board of Directors in this awesome hometown. Just want to reiterate, I've got a record in lowering taxes, lowering our debt, putting money aside to help us navigate through 3 natural disasters, the pandemic, and the downturn in oil and gas. Additionally, we've made enhancements along the way. We've saved $6.4 million in insurance costs. We got our fire department up to a protection class 1, which is the highest in the nation in law enforcement.
Oh gosh.
Wow, that was
30 seconds.
Okay,
No.
30 seconds.
Belton, you're throwing me off.
Yeah.
We've expanded our pathways and recreational amenities. We increased reforestation. We planted 318,000 trees since I was first elected. We got AstroTurf on our sports fields. We've added Rob Fleming Rec Center, Texas Tree Ventures. We're planning for the future of this community. I will fight to protect against overdevelopment, clear cutting, and extensions, overpasses, underpasses, and anything that threatens the quality of life of this community, regardless of which village it is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Jerry?
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier today at a different form. So the voters are my priority. Your voice, your vote, it matters. I'm running as a candidate who has the experience, the skill set, and the willingness to bring people together and overcome obstacles that divide us. I'm running as a candidate who has the experience, the skill set, and the courage to fight for you. I am running as a candidate who believes in you and your ability to decide what issues are important and the future that you want. So my name is Jerry Smith, and I'm running for your board of directors representative in position 1.
All right, thank you. Yeah, remember the gong is for 30 seconds and you have 30
I'm good, thank you.
left. Okay. Next position, Jimmie, you go first. Oh, unmute your mic. All right, you're on.
Thank you very much for letting me participate in this forum tonight. I am very honored to be among these men who's willing to give up their time to serve their community. Serving has always been a part of my life. From a child growing up in Arkansas, my parents taught my brothers and I to serve and to give back. I've done that throughout my entire career, serving as my country in the Marine Corps, serving my cities in Houston for 24 years in the police department, serving in Chattanooga, Tennessee as police chief, and serving this great community of the Woodlands. And I want to serve from the board to share my experiences with them about public safety. But we do have a challenge facing us, the Corvette. We've got to get successfully through the Corvette. We have to make sure that our residents have all the information when that subject of incorporation comes up again. We've got to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as a police chief, law enforcement is going to be one of the major packages in this incorporation. And I want them to know everything that they are going to be having to pay for.
Okay,
and that study has not shown everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Jason?
I've been on this planet now for 43 years, and as far back as I can remember, I've been about serving God and serving others. And when my family and I moved to the Woodlands in 2013, I immediately fell in love with this community, not just because it's a beautiful piece of God's creation, but because of the people. The people are amazing. My 6 children are just engaged so much and involved in the community, and my desire to protect the Woodlands is also extension to protect their future in the Woodlands. And what you have in me is you have someone who longs to serve, who tries to act justly and love mercy and walk humbly with God, someone who is conservative and values, someone who values the sanctity of life, and that believes that every single person is created in the image of God. I am so excited to continue to work with the board to make sure that we keep our property taxes down, to be fiscally responsible, to fund law enforcement, to support our first responders and encourage them on a daily basis, and to do whatever we have to do to encourage this community, to encourage one another, to just hold on and hold steadfast during these times so we can be stronger than ever in the future.
Thank you. Time's up. Tom?
We are at a crossroads with vastly different futures. We must not go the way of Greenspoint My support for incorporation is not at all costs, rather, reasonably and sensibly contingent on it being done correctly. I'm not for an incorporation whose charter I do not yet know of what it consists. I'm not for incorporation if it means the fundamental character, community, and culture of the Woodlands changes for the worst. These are the risks. But what made us great was a comprehensive plan that was doable. We need a comprehensive plan now that is doable. I support incorporation not because of the reasons typically given, but because of the need of the comprehensive plan, which is only doable when the Woodlands is incorporated. The people who hear this can make a difference. Together, we can defeat any political action committee.
Okay, thank you very much.
People and deprive us
Luis,
choosing the best candidate.
your time's up.
Okay, the other person is still talking, right?
It's your turn, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. The President Reagan, and I don't want to assume that I can at the same level, okay? But President Reagan asked a critical question, a very wise question that he posed to the voters at the time is this: are you better off now than you were before? And the answer to this specific post that I am applying to is no, we are not better off. There is a degradation in the quality of life. Is that my time up?
No, yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay. There is a degradation of the quality of life for the reasons that I explained to you before. Also, I am running for one term. I don't believe in re-elections, okay? Just one time and that's it. There is not going to be any re-elections if I am appointed. I also believe in term limits. There shouldn't be re-election for 4 or 5 terms. This is ridiculous. Power corrupt.
Okay,
And
sir,
corruption
I'm sorry, your time is up.
authoritarian attitudes, and we need to stop that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Bruce? Unmute your mic.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate you organizing this. And I just want to thank all the candidates for putting themselves out there, for public office. It's a big commitment. In this race, I really think that, that I'm the most qualified individual. My business background and my extensive experience in finance, real estate, contracts, negotiations, and personal management have equipped me to successfully lead a wide range of township functions from travel and tourism to flood mitigation. I've worked hard as I know how to engender your trust and confidence, and I hope I've done enough to earn your vote for another 2-year term. I just want to say that I'm very sensitive to the fact, especially your residents in Windsor Hills, that many of them are on fixed incomes, but the issue around incorporation and the additional costs is a huge question. But there are ways to mitigate those costs, and we could actually, as a city, we could actually freeze through a homestead exemption all of the taxes for everyone over 65 and disabled, if we so choose to do that as a board. And I would certainly advocate that if we do take this to the voters. Thank you, Diane.
Much. And Dan?
Thank you, Diane and Rob and Windsor Hills. Thank you for doing this. I'll remind you of a great statue that is at the intersection of Grogan's Mill and Research Forest. At the base of it, it is inscribed, "If I can see further, it is because I stand upon the shoulders of giants." If there's any success that we have had in this community, it is because of the great vision of Mr. George P. Mitchell and the hard work of the men and women, the giants who went before us. All we are doing is harvesting the fruits of the labors of people who went before us. Ours is the responsibility to nurture this, develop it, and maintain it for our children, grandchildren, and generations to come. I'm a 30-year resident, 43 years in pastoral ministry, managing a multi-million-dollar, multi-staff Christian ministry. My entrepreneurial spirit and business acumen and the understanding of how to work in a public setting, I think, makes me qualified to serve as your board of directors. May God bless you, and may God bless our township.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for your participation. Oh, I'm sorry. What? And we've done everybody, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Diane. Good night, everybody.
Good luck
Thank
to
you.
everybody. We appreciate your answers.
you.
I think our residents will appreciate what you've said, and this is being recorded. I'm not sure how,
We will post the recording on our website at whhoa.com, and you can get it there. It should be up probably by tomorrow night.
Great. That was the first thing I was going to ask you. I saw the record button was on.
Yeah, can you say that again?
We'll pull it up. Thank you.
It's at whhoa.com.
it will be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thank you. And you're welcome
Thanks,
to
everyone.
stay as participants for the CISD.
Yeah, if anybody wants to stay, we will we'll change roles now to attendees. You may stay, and then I'll bring up the CISD people at this time.
I don't care if you put me on as an attendee. I wouldn't mind hearing the school district guys.
Okay.
Mhm. So now we'll put him in.
All right. So now we'll bring up the so we're going to promote Stacy Chase at this time.
Mhm.
Scott Moore.
Ashley,
Alyssa Weaver.
yeah, Misha.
I'm sorry. There she is, Misha. And then Ashley Farrell. Ashley, you're up here twice, so hopefully I get the right one. Okay, there we go. Great. So let's test mics real quick. Would all four of you unmute your mics? And Scott, would you say something?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you well. Thank you. Stacy, would you say something?
Hi, Windsor Hills.
Good. Hi. Ashley? Maybe I got the wrong Ashley. There's another Ashley here. For some reason, you're up twice. Okay, we'll see if that does it. And then Misha, would you unmute and say something?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So Ashley is not unmuted.
Okay, Ashley, would you unmute and say something?
Sorry.
There you
Oh,
are.
there she is.
This is me.
Okay, so I am going to demote the other one because you think you must have set up two sessions.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. And now you may mute and Diane will give you instructions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Diane Bass, and I seem to be the moderator of this event. Nice to meet all of you. I actually ran into Ashley at another meeting last week. And so it's nice to see you here. We didn't go too much over with our first forum, so let me see what I need to tell you. We've never done this format for our candidate forums, but I guess there are some benefits to virtual meetings. No face masks required. You can wear anything you want and you don't have to get in your car and drive somewhere. So praise God for those things. We thank you for participating in this forum. We appreciate your offering yourself for one of these positions and for taking the time to join us tonight. We have 4 candidates running for 2 different positions. Datron Williams, current trustee for position 4, is unopposed, and position 5 candidate Teresa Wagaman is also unopposed, so they will not be speaking. We will take our candidates by position and order on the ballot. First, we will have position 6 candidates, Stacy Chase and Ashley, is it Furley?
It's fairly, like a fairly nice day.
Fairly, oh, okay. And then next will be position 7 candidates, Scott Moore and Misha, is it Weaver?
It's Maisha.
Maisha, okay.
Thank you.
Maisha, okay. Thank you for being here. So I've got an opening, 3 questions. The other positions got only 2 questions, and then a final comment. The opening, you'll have 2 minutes. My husband's our timekeeper, and he will do a gong after half the time's up. So after a minute's up. And then the 3 questions are each 2 minutes apiece. And then the final comment is just a minute. So after a minute, you'll hear a gong, and then the final gong. And then after the closing, you'll have 30 seconds gong and then gong. And we will be rotating back and forth. So the first is the opening. Please tell us how long you have resided within the confines of CISD, your education and work experience, your motivation for running, and why we should elect you to represent us on the CISD board. Stacy, you will go first. 2 minutes. Don't forget to unmute your mic.
Doing that right now. Want you to hear my best stuff. Hi, thanks for having me here. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of y'all. So I have lived in the Woodlands now for 3 years and 5 months. I moved from the DFW area. My background is I graduated from the University of Texas at Arlington with an accounting degree. I started working for a large global corporation where I started as an intern and am now a little over 10 years later, as senior manager of internal audit, the highest ranking female in my group in the Americas. And I did this while finishing my degree, getting a CPA, having 2 kids, getting married. And I did this because I'm clever and I deliver results, but I also demonstrate integrity and leadership and build communities. I think my role in internal audit is especially nicely positions me for school board responsibility, as I'm charged with providing, oversight and governance and financial stewardship. I'm running because I got interested in the board last year during the bond package. I stayed interested during the pandemic, and I realized there was no one who looked like me on the board. There was no mothers, there was no females, and I think that I can be.
Okay. Sorry, your time's up.
Oh, I just heard 1 bell. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I was closing anyway, so.
Oh, no, I cut you off.
Yeah, so anyway, I think I can provide that voice for our children and for our dollars. And I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ashley.
Hi. So my name is Ashley, and I grew up in Montgomery County. I've been here for 30 years. I graduated from Conroe High School, so I'm a product of CISD. I went to Baylor University, where I earned my bachelor's in social work. While I was there, I did internships in child protective services as well as communities and schools. After graduation, I became a medical hospice social worker in Montgomery County. The territory that I served was actually the CISD boundaries, so I understand the size and scope, as well as I've seen the growth here firsthand. I met my husband. He is also a product of CISD. His mother's a retired teacher from CISD. We have 2 children who are currently in CISD, and I left my vocation to raise my children, and I became a CASA advocate, where I was a voice for children in the court. And I have been involved in PTOs and since my kids started school, and was PTO president for 2 years, where my fundraising abilities became known as best practice, and I consulted other schools in CISD to help them fundraise. I feel that I will bring a unique experience and balance to the board that is lacking. As a taxpayer, I will make sure that we remain fiscally responsible with our tax dollars. So, and I'm running because I want to maintain the strong district here and level the educational playing field for all children, especially the special population groups.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Good evening. I'm Scott Moore. I have lived in Conroe ISD for a total of 27 years, 18 years the first time, and 11 years this time. I grew up in the Woodlands area, graduated from what was then McCullough High School back in the 90s. I went to Lamar University in Beaumont. I earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and political science there. I hold a Master of Divinity degree from Southern Methodist University, and I'm currently working on a PhD in leadership studies at Our Lady of the Lake University. I actually started my dissertation this semester, and my dissertation is on school board leadership and teacher organizational commitment. I am a Methodist pastor, but my first career was in law enforcement. I served with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and the Montgomery County Precinct 1 Constable's Office. I have worked in patrol and criminal investigations, the SWAT team at the county level. Left Montgomery County in 2002 to go to work for the federal government as a special agent with the U.S. Customs Service, where I served as a criminal investigator investigating terrorism and drug cartel money laundering activities. Commanded a SWAT team and was a tactical firearms instructor for them, and then went into the ministry full time. I've served churches throughout East Texas. I was the executive pastor at First Methodist in Conroe, oversaw disaster relief operations for a 58 county region in East Texas for the United Methodist Church. I've been on the board for 4 years. Before I ran, I had served on every single district committee a parent could possibly serve on, had been active for over 6 years at the district level, understand what all the committees look like, currently serve on the investment and audit committees, on the safety and security committee. I've served district level planning and decision making, facilities planning, attendance boundary committee.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. And Maisha?
Good evening, Diane. Thank you for having me. I'm a resident of Conroe ISD 34 years since I was a baby. My education, I actually went to McCullough when it was the high school. I graduated from Oak Ridge High, and I'm so proud of that because unlike the other candidates, I don't have my degree yet. I have made a great career for myself, starting from the bottom with my high school education and working my way up. I have 13 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. And I'm currently back in school. Thanks to COVID, I have the time to go back and finish. My motivation for running is my children. I'm a single mother, and I'm a mother to the community. I'm known as a teen mom. I've served with the YMCA, the PTO, teen mom. Within the schools, I'm always there reading. I care about children. Children are my heart. So that's why I'm running in my motivation. I feel I should be elected because I bring diversity to the board. Our current board is ran by all men, which I feel a great individual. So the full board should represent everyone across the board, the young, the old, the multi-races, the multi-backgrounds, multi-income levels. Conroe ISD is diverse, and I feel like I would bring that to the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, COVID-19 has affected just about all aspects of our lives. including the education of our children. Do you support getting back to normal, that's in quotes, as soon as possible, or keeping our learning online? What are the major pitfalls and benefits of online versus in-person learning at the current time? You have 2 minutes. Ashley, you're first.
I think there's been a lot of issues with the online platform. First of all, due to the pandemic, we have a lot of academic regression. There's typically known as the summer slide. Well, the kids were not in school. The spring was kind of a crisis mode. So there's a lot of academic regression, and because we're still having STAR tests this year, the teachers didn't do review at the beginning of the year. They just jumped right in because they're online with their TEKS to prepare for the STAR testing. In addition to that, we have teachers who are teaching online and in person, which is putting a great deal of stress on them. There's been some technology issues. And so I think it's hard because you have a community with varying opinions on their comfort level to return to school. You have children with autoimmune diseases who aren't able to. So I think having the ability of online is good, but it needs to be tweaked.
Okay, thank you very much. Stacy?
Yeah, hi. So I'm not sure what normal is anymore and getting back to normal, but I think we can all agree that what's happening now is not sustainable in the long term. Like, for sure, we can probably all agree on that. I think this pandemic has presented the biggest risk to the school district that they have right now. I mean, there is the health and safety risk, which we all understand. There's the academic risk, right, that Ashley just pointed out quite well. And then, there's also this budget risk, right? So I think the school board is going to have to be especially mindful to navigate the next year, short term, long term, with those three risks in mind, and balancing the health and safety of not only our students and their families, but also our teachers and our administrators. Is that the first bell?
No, you got a minute.
Okay, sorry. You get talking and you don't hear the bells. Yeah. But yeah, so confronting the health and safety risk, the academic risk that Ashley pointed out, getting our students back up to par, right? Not having this slide. And also the well-being of our teachers who are having to do remote and in person. And then also the budget risk, right? Oh, okay.
No, you got 30 seconds.
Right now, for the first 9 weeks, 22,000 students in Conroe ISD elected to do remote, right? And that has a big dollar value impact for the district if those students don't come back after this. So I think the budget risk is especially something the board is going to have to be mindful of. They're going to have to consider it in all of their decisions. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, Maisha?
Hello. In regards to COVID, I do support things going back to normal. Actually, all three of my children have returned. They returned after the first 3 weeks and they have done well. The first 3 weeks were really hard as a single parent, trying to balance work, home, and my children's schooling. I almost came to the point I had to make a choice. Either I'm gonna work or I'm gonna stay home and make sure my kids have what they need to be equipped. It's very important that we don't leave out all of the students, the 504 children. They need the education that they get from the public school. The parents are not equipped or trained to keep them at the level that they need to be. I think the way we've handled it so far, parents having an option. Again, my kids went back, everything is going great. but at the same time, you also cannot put a price on a child's life. Health risks are there, and there's some kids that may not be able to go back. So we have to think about the pros and the cons, and not just one set of students, but all the students, and come together as one and make a decision for everyone, because it's not just one group of children, it's all of our children.
Mm-hmm. You have more time if you want it. 47 seconds.
Oh,
All
I'm
done?
good. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, so assuming that back to normal means back in the classroom, I do support that as long as it can be done safely. I do fully believe in the science that says that there are ways that we can help stop the spread, and as a school district, we are responsible for the health and the safety of every person that enters our facilities. So we need to make sure that those facilities can be operating at 100% safely. The American Academy of Pediatrics has come out with their own version, and I do believe their science as well, that says that the social emotional connection and the psychological needs of children to be in community are very important, and by keeping them away from that, we are actually harming the psychological development of the children. Yes, we had 34% of our students at the beginning of the year that chose online. We have already had hundreds, if not thousands, of those who have already indicated their intention to transition back to in-person after the first 9 weeks. So I fully anticipate seeing the number of in-person students continue to rise as we go through the second 9 weeks. The reality of it is that back to normal is probably going to include some type of online format for the foreseeable future. There are just going to be a certain number of people who do not feel safe sending their children back to in-person instruction in the foreseeable future. And what we have right now is teachers trying to adapt an in-person curriculum to an online format, and things get lost in translation. So Dr. Knoll and I have had conversations with our state legislature about the possibility of changing state law to allow the district to also have a certified, approved online academy that can actually present a true online curriculum for those parents who just don't feel safe when we do go back to 100%.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Next question, 2 minutes, and you'll hear the gong after a minute. Do you feel our current and past school boards have been fiscally responsible when setting each year's tax rate and calling for bond elections? Are there some areas that should have had a higher priority? And we'll start out with Stacy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so the bond issue, yes.
And the tax rate.
And the tax rate, right. Well, I mean, the tax rate is just a product of, the maintenance and operation of the school district and their debt service obligation. So the bond, bonds have a major impact on what the tax rate will be. But yeah, so I spoke a little bit earlier about getting really interested in this, seeing the bond package that was put forth last year. And I'm sure most of you can remember that the first bond package of $800 million was not passed, right, by the voters. And it was approved by the school board as a package, but it was not approved by the voters. And I also did not vote for that. I thought there was some things in there that weren't appropriate. So I think the bond package that was put forth later on in November that did pass for $600-ish million was appropriate, and it was based on reasonable estimates and analysis at the time based on the student growth. I think that coronavirus has really thrown all of that, all of those predictions, right, and long-term forecasting for a loop. And I think we're going to have to see if that is still the appropriate, amount to service the needs for the school district. But if I'm elected there, I want to make sure it is, and that you know, we uphold our commitment to the community that this bond package is for 5 years, that it services the needs of the community and the school district appropriately, and that
Okay,
yeah.
time's up.
Okay.
Thank you. And Ashley?
Okay. I'm going to echo and agree with what Stacy said. The first bond that was put forth to voters was a little bit frivolous and had a lot of unnecessary items on it, which I think that had a lot to do with why it didn't pass. And then they went back to the drawing board. They also met with the community members to get feedback and came up with a better plan that not only met the needs that we needed in the district for key infrastructure items, as well as renovations that were needed on buildings, safety and security, to bring those up to code. A lot of items were on there that were needed. The bonds will not be assessed unless there's a need. And the district does a really good job to be fiscally responsible with that money. They just refinanced some of the 2015 bond to save taxpayers quite a bit of money. So they do everything they can to save the taxpayers' dollars. But when there are needs for growth, you know, we have to fulfill those needs. But if there's a school's allotted in an empty neighborhood, they're not going to build that school until there's a need. And certainly this pandemic might affect the economy and the growth of new developments with job losses and such. But I feel that they will plan accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Yeah, so I actually do agree, and this may be an unpopular statement for a sitting board member to make. I do agree that the $807 million bond package had some things in it that should not have been there. What we did is we took the advice and the input of the Facility Planning Committee. They did not present us with a 2-bond option the first time around. And the overwhelming majority of the things that were in that $807 million bond were absolutely necessary. There were some things that I would classify as wish list as opposed to needs list. And so when the May bond failed, if you go back and you watch the videos, the night that we canvassed the vote, a fellow board member made the comment that, well, we might just bring back another $807 million bond package to the voters in November and just try to do a better job selling it. And if you go back and watch that video, I vehemently was opposed to that and made the statement that we absolutely could not bring the same bond package back. So we worked for the next several months to get that down to just a needs list and to also find creative ways to reallocate money from other areas in the budget. We took $20 million out of an unassigned fund balance to seed a capital maintenance fund so that we wouldn't have to put maintenance issues in future bonds. Since the 2008 bond, for refinancing and refunding, we have saved the taxpayers over $178 million in refunded bonds by refinancing them early. Over the last 2 years, I've worked to lower the tax rate. In 2018, our tax rate was $1.28 per 100 valuation. Last year, we lowered it to $1.23. This year, we just lowered it to $1.21 1/4. So I would argue that we are being very fiscally responsible because we are taking on debt that is necessary to address the 1,500 new students that are still moving into our district every year, to address overcrowding and still lower the tax rate.
Time's up. Thank you very much, Scott. And last but not least, Maisha?
Yes, ma'am. After reviewing the budget myself, I just went through it. I've been reviewing it the past few months and just recently with Dr. Knoll. I would say I agree. We have been fiscally responsible given the situation. Everyone brought up the past bond, but I don't really focus on it because it didn't pass. The community spoke. I'm more concerned about the future. Next year is going to be a challenge. State funding may not be what it's been in the past, and that's going to affect our budget. I always say you cannot plan for the unforeseen. you have to prepare for everything. And COVID, for sure, no one expected 2020 to hit us like this. And it's going to impact us. And it's not just the school district, it's impacted the homes of the students, the homes of our teachers, the nurses, the bus drivers. It has impacted everyone. So it's critical that we think about, like I say, I'm big on the community, how this year has impacted us, and we have to be realistic about it. It's going to be a challenge next year, and we need to be honest and transparent with everyone and let them know we're going to be in next year, I believe, with a financial challenge in the upcoming year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question, 2 minutes. What are the major roles and responsibilities of a school board member? Ashley?
The primary roles of a school board member is to hire the superintendent, as well as perform his yearly evaluations. In addition to that, we vote and set the tax rate for the year. And then we provide oversight in curriculum and budget, that sort of thing.
Okay. Stacy?
Yeah, I would agree with everything Ashley said. I would just add, we're also responsible, or the school board is responsible for setting policies and setting goals and vision for the school district. They're not responsible for the day-to-day operations, right? That is what the superintendent will do, but instead responsible for the oversight of that superintendent, like Ashley mentioned, the hiring and review, performance review, and all of that. And that is what the school board does.
Okay, thank you. Maisha?
Everyone has different views on the school board. My personal view, I believe my main thing and the purpose I hope I get voted in is to represent the community. On the school board, we need to hold our superintendent accountable. We need to hold our teachers and staff accountable and hold them to the standard of Conroe ISD. Like I said, I graduated from the school district and I take pride in it. And I want it to be represented well on all aspects of it. And I think as a board, we should work together to make our school board, make Conroe ISD the example for others. I want us up there with Katie. Katie every year ranks at the top. I want to see my school district rank at the top. And I believe by working together with one another and within the community, even with past board members and current, we can do that. We can make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Scott?
Yeah, the duties of a trustee are very clearly laid out in state law. And these ladies all seem to be well versed in what the roles are. State law allows us to hire and to evaluate the superintendent, to set a budget and a tax rate, and to set policies and procedures for the district. We refer to the superintendent trustee role as a team of 8. There are 7 of us that are elected by the community, and then the 8th member is the superintendent. He administers the day-to-day operations of the school district with the advice and counsel and the guidance of the school board, and we provide him the community input from what we're hearing from our constituents. The name trustee gives you the link to exactly what the job is. We are not a board of education. We are not a board of directors. I know that you, right before we came on, you were hosting a forum for the board of directors of the township. Our role is not as a board of directors or board of education. We are a board of trustees, meaning that the community places their trust in us to administer their district with their money on their behalf.
Okay. Thank you. And Maisha?
I just went. Is this my 2 minute?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
It's
didn't.
okay.
I didn't put a little mark down here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got ahead of myself. So you each have a chance for a final comment. 1 minute. You'll hear a gong after 30 seconds. So Stacy, you're first.
Seems like I've been going first a lot.
No, I've actually been rotating it.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to thank you, Diane, and the residents of Windsor Hills for sponsoring this. What a treat, especially the first half as well, which I listened to. And I just personally am really encouraged by everything I've seen tonight and the group of people on here, because I think that no matter what, you guys are going to get some diversity on the board and some people who are passionate about what they're doing. I hope one of them is me. I think I can bring some skills and yeah, some experience to the board for the governance and oversight and financial stewardship responsibilities here. And I think we will be better off as a community. And I look forward to serving my community in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ashley.
Yes, thank you, Diane, and for having me and the residents of Windsor Hills. I've really enjoyed this opportunity. I just want to say I have always had a servant's heart and a heart for volunteerism in my, not only church, but my community. I've been a leader in my church in various ways, as well as the school. So I feel like with my education background and with my master's in social work, and I maintained my license, so I do continuing education. So I get various things yearly on bullying and school stuff related issues. So I would appreciate your vote, and I look forward to serving the children and representing your tax dollars well if I'm elected. So again, I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ashley. Scott?
Yes, I would say that I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience. I've spent 4 years on the board. During those 4 years, I have proven myself to be a good steward of the tax dollars, helping to lower the tax rate substantially over the last 2 years. I have connections with other trustees in the state. I am on the Texas Association of School Boards Legislative Advisory Council. I work with trustees from around the state to set the legislative agenda every 2 years. I have relationships with all of our state legislators and meet with them regularly to discuss issues of importance on how they can help bolster public education in our county. I'm proven, I'm reliable, and I'm trusted, and I've shown that I can do the job.
Thank you very much. And Maisha.
Yes, thank you again, Diane and Windsor Hills. And to all of the candidates, I wish you the best. I'm asking the people to vote for me because I'm one of you. I'm a parent, I'm a volunteer, I'm a tax-paying citizen, I'm a regular person. I'm your next door neighbor that cares about the future of our children. I have children and I'm big, they will tell you, on education and being the best that they can be. Again, I hope you vote for me. I feel my background, I may not have all the degrees, but I have a caring heart and I have a passion for the children of God. This is something I've always wanted to do, and I hope you choose me to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank, I did during the Woodlands Township, but Rob Miller, our HOA board president, has been our technical guru on all this, and it wouldn't have happened without him. Our clubhouse staff, we couldn't do without. My husband sitting next to me, although out of your sight, has been our timekeeper. There he is. And I wish you all would bring different things to the table. I wish you could all win, but unfortunately that cannot happen. So good luck to all of you. Again, thank you for participating. Thank you for taking your time to hear and to run for office. I know it's a huge task and probably even more challenging during this time of COVID because there are not a whole lot of get-togethers that you can go see people face-to-face. So this session is being recorded. It should be available on Windsor Hills website sometime tomorrow, whhoa.com. So if you want to look back and refer people to that, you're welcome to do that. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.